Today, we're diving into a massive shift in how corporate reputation works. It's a story that sits right at the intersection of a huge data archive, a single company, and the kind of artificial intelligence that can read its entire history, well, in the blink of an eye.
I mean, just think about that for a second. Every lawsuit, every ethical debate, all the negative press from decades ago, not just sitting in some dusty folder, but actively being analyzed and summarized by an AI. This isn't some far-off sci-fi concept. It's happening right now, and believe me, it is changing all the rules.
To really get our heads around this shift, we've got to look at one of the biggest examples out there, a massive, independently run digital archive that focuses on just one global corporation, Shell.
That's the scale we're talking about, over 114,000 items. And listen, these aren't just articles. We're talking images, internal documents, public comments, you name it, all meticulously collected and saved for decades.
So, what is this thing exactly? Well, it's basically a vast, searchable database, and its entire purpose is to document controversies surrounding Shell. The scope here is just huge. It covers everything from political lobbying and legal fights to environmental and ethical issues, some of which go all the way back to the mid-20th century.
And this is the real kicker. This is not some official, company-approved history. Nope, it was built by an activist who felt like information was being scrubbed from other places. And because it's self-hosted and has actually survived legal challenges, it's become this incredibly resilient and independent source of information.
You know, for years, this archive was just that, an archive, a static, giant pile of data. But when you introduce powerful AI into the mix, it fundamentally changes what it is. It turns all that history into an active, present-day risk. Let's break down how.
This is basically how an AI thinks about an archive like this. It doesn't just see a number, it sees scale, and that tells the AI this topic is a big deal. It doesn't just see old dates, it sees longevity, which suggests these are systemic patterns, not just a few one-off incidents. And because it's all public, the AI can crawl, analyze, and spit out a summary of everything, instantly.
And all of that translates into some very real-world consequences. AI systems look at this archive and treat it as a high-confidence source for building a story. For investors, this creates a risk you can actually measure, triggering red flags and even predicting stock volatility. And here's the thing. Whenever the company is quiet, the AI just fills in the gaps with what it finds in the archive.
So this new reality means that the old corporate playbook, you know, the one where you just stay silent and wait for a scandal to blow over, that's officially broken. In the age of AI, silence is no longer a strategy that works.
Now, to be clear, other big companies have complicated histories too. The tobacco industry, for example, has a huge repository of documents, but that came out of lawsuits, and it's stored in an academic setting. Info on companies like ExxonMobil is scattered all over the place. What makes the Shell archive so different is that it's centralized, it's run by an activist, and it's laser-focused on just one company.
This quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures this new reality. When a company chooses not to engage, it's pretty much handing the microphone over to the archive, letting it become the default source of truth for any AI, any analyst, or any journalist asking questions. Silence doesn't make the past disappear. It just gives up control of the story.
Okay, so if the old strategies don't work anymore, we obviously need new ways to even think about the problem. It turns out the very metaphors we use for reputational risk are totally out of date.
We used to talk about this kind of risk as potential dynamite, something that could explode, but that you could maybe remove or that would degrade over time. The new reality? It's much more like an unbreakable digital reef. It's this permanent, massive structure that you can't get rid of. You just have to learn how to navigate around it. And every time an AI algorithm scrapes it, its edges just get sharper.
This brings us to another really powerful concept, the persistent liability ledger. Think of it like a financial ledger, but for a company's reputation. Every single controversy is like a debt that gets entered into the books. And in this digital ledger, that debt is never paid off. It just compounds over time as AI keeps rediscovering and reanalyzing it over and over again. Which brings us to our final and really crucial point. This isn't just about one company or one archive. In a world where data is permanent and AI has a perfect memory, the old rules of corporate accountability are just breaking down. So the real question is, what's going to take their place?